What if Tanjiro made his own breathing style? So thank you to Kabuki, I'm pretty sure that's his name, because I put this in one of my posts, you guys voted for it, so thank you to him for giving the idea and the inspiration to do this. So shout out to him. This isn't just a remake of that video, because I have different opinions on Demon Slayer now. So everything happens the same in the beginning. Tanjiro goes to sell coal, and the old man tells him not to go back up the mountain during the night because demons roam. He stays there for the night, and when he gets back, he sees his whole family dead, except Nezuko. He tries to get Nezuko help when Giyu shows up. They fight, and Giyu sends him off to Urokodaki. This is where he learns water breathing. Everything goes through the same story until we reach Rui's Mountain. At Rui's Mountain, when Tanjiro first used sun breathing, he already knew water breathing from muscle memory, and he knew a little bit of sun breathing, which actually makes sense in the story, because Tanjiro didn't fully know sun breathing, the Hinakami Kagura, from the beginning. He only knew fragments of it. He didn't fully know it all. So this is perfect. In Kabuki's video, he did cloud breathing, but I don't think Tanjiro would have that. When fire meets water, you get steam. So I'm going to name it steam breathing. It's kind of hard to make that a breathing technique because you can only see steam for a little bit. When steam hits, you only see a little fog and then it disappears. So I want to make this style more like thunder breathing. So fast you can barely see him. Demon Slayer already scales up really fast, hypersonic speed, Hashira level speed, so that fits. So he gets a raw version of steam breathing. In universe, every breathing style is basically a way to force more oxygen into the body and optimize movement patterns so humans can keep up with demons. That's why styles branch off sun breathing, because they're all trying to produce efficient power and speed without breaking the body. Steam sits in a sweet spot between water's adaptability and flame sun's heat, but visually it behaves like mist, appearing and vanishing in bursts. That gives Tanjiro a legit reason to experiment with blink and you miss it movements that sell the illusion of teleporting without actually teleporting. Now he didn't fully defeat Rui, because he couldn't cut Rui's head off because of that cheap trick with the thread fake neck thing, so Giyu comes in and finishes him off. Now Tanjiro has an imperfect version of steam breathing. Now we go to the Hashira meeting arc, because they're wondering why he's traveling with a demon. That plays out the same, but instead of Tanjiro wondering about flame breathing because his dad used it, now he's wondering how to improve steam breathing, which he calls it now. The closest thing to steam is mist breathing, so he goes to ask Muichiro for support. Muichiro doesn't really care. He doesn't help because he still doesn't have his memories. So I think a different Hashira would help him, like Giyu, since Rengoku is already on the Mugen train right now. So with Tanjiro wanting to meet Giyu again, he goes to ask Giyu to help him train and perfect this new style he found. Giyu is obviously annoyed that Tanjiro isn't doing water breathing because he wanted him to be the next water Hashira. That arc between them would be touched on way earlier than the original timeline, because they originally talked about this in the Hashira training arc. Now they talk about it around the Mugen train arc. Giyu has his whole backstory already opened up here, so Giyu helps him perfect steam breathing. There's about 7 forms of it, and it's mixed with water breathing, sun breathing, and a little thunder breathing, because you need to be super fast to disappear like steam. He probably learns a little speed from Zenitsu while training too. Then the Mugen train happens, and Rengoku doesn't have any help, so he still dies to Akaza in this original timeline. During this training with Giyu, frustrated but focused, Tanjiro catalogs his techniques so they stop being instinct spam and become a real style. He doesn't copy, he adapts. Here's how the 7 steam breathing forms settle in. Steam breathing. First form, steam. Step, a burst movement footwork that uses explosive exhales to ghost off the line. Short vanish, immediate reappear at a new angle. Second form, vapor slash. A quick, slanted cut executed at the tail end of a dash. The exhale hides the approach. The blade lands as vision clears. Third form, scalding burst. A close-range multi-hit flurry where each strike is timed to sharp micro-exhales, stacking pressure like boiling water. Fourth form, pressure wave. A defensive offensive parry that redirects force, then snaps back with a recoil slash. Think water's redirection with hotter intent. Fifth form, clouded guard. A faint steam curtain created by continuous breath cycling and foot feints. Sightline manipulation for counters. Sixth form, boil over rush. A sustained sprint and slice sequence, heating up momentum with each breath. Speed compounding until the final break. Seventh form, evaporation. Finisher, silence, step in. Single decisive cut, executed at the exact moment the opponent loses him in the haze. All 7 fit how you described steam. Half defense, half offense. With water's guard, thunder's pace, and hints of Sun's decisive timing. And importantly, none of this requires Tanjiro to unlock the mark. Now we're at the Entertainment District arc. After Tanjiro trains and perfects his new style of breathing, he goes with Tengen because everything still happens the same. So Tengen, Inosuke, Zenitsu, and Tanjiro go through the Entertainment District arc. So we're gonna skip all the dialogue parts, like them dressing up as women, going through the houses, trying to find the demon. We're skipping that. Tengen, Inosuke, and Zenitsu are fighting the belt from Daki, and Tanjiro is fighting Daki with his steam breathing. Daki is having a hard time keeping up with him because he disappears sometimes, just like steam when he uses his forms. His breathing technique is half defense and half offense, because water breathing is more defensive, and thunder breathing and sun breathing are more attacking styles, so it's a really good mixture. By this point, Tanjiro is comfortably hypersonic plus in combat bursts, not because of raw stats alone, but because Steam Step plus Boil over Rush let him chain acceleration and line-breaking angles. Daki's ribbons track movement, not absence. When Tanjiro evaporates out of her active focus and re-enters from an oblique, her reaction windows shrink, which is why she looks late even though she's fast. But when it gets to the part where Tanjiro's eyes turn red in the original timeline, where he says he's not special, that still happens in this timeline because he doesn't even use sun breathing here. He really thinks he isn't special at all, because he doesn't have a Demon Slayer mark. He wasn't born with a mark. He tries to cut off Daki's head, but it doesn't work. He loses his breath, and Nezuko comes in to save him using her demon form. Then Tengen, Inosuke, and Zenitsu all arrive, and the fight really starts. Everything basically happens the same as the original timeline in this fight. Tengen still loses his arm, and Tanjiro still doesn't awaken the Demon Slayer mark because he doesn't have sun breathing in this version, and sun breathing is the main part of unlocking the Demon Slayer mark, plus a near-death situation. So that would never happen here. So that's the Entertainment District arc. Now we go to the Swordsmith Village arc with Tanjiro already chipping his blade and going into a coma for a couple months. Now, after Tanjiro wakes up from his coma, he doesn't have a sword, so he goes to the Swordsmith Village arc. Everything there happens the same. He meets the swordsmiths, he trains, he meets Mitsuri, and we're just gonna skip to when Muichiro pinches his nose and Upper Moon 4 attacks the village. Muichiro still gets blasted away, and Tanjiro's steam breathing isn't a big help at first since he still doesn't have the Demon Slayer mark, so this fight is way harder for him. But just like in the original timeline, when the whole house collapses, Nezuko gives him the red blade power-up from her blood demon art, so everything basically plays out the same way, just with Tanjiro being a little weaker in this timeline since he doesn't have sun breathing or the mark. But he's still strong because nobody has ever seen his breathing style before. It catches Upper Moon 4 off guard since it mixes speed and power in a weird way. The red blade synergy here still tracks because Nezuko's blood demon art, igniting blood, amplifies heat-based properties on contact. Steam breathing isn't literal elemental magic, but the high heat imagery and explosive exhale cadence line up with how the red blade punishes demon regeneration. So Tanjiro's evaporation finisher becomes extra lethal for a short window. Wounds sizzle faster than they can close, so everything goes the same. Muichiro fights Upper Moon 5 after getting blasted away and defeats him just like the original timeline. Tanjiro still slices Upper Moon 4's head off, and Mitsuri comes back to hold off the main body, while Tanjiro, Inosuke, and Nezuko go to find the real body and cut off its head. Everything happens just like the original. Tanjiro gets his new sword from Muichiro and uses it to finish the job, and Nezuko still becomes immune to sunlight. Now we move to the Hashira training arc. In this timeline, Muichiro, the Mist Hashira, would be a huge help to Tanjiro because their breathing styles are kind of similar. They both hide their presence. So Muichiro helps Tanjiro improve his steam breathing a lot, making him faster and harder to detect, just like Mist. That gives Tanjiro a level up in speed and stealth with his breathing. The Hashira training arc happens basically the same, except Tanjiro still doesn't unlock the Demon Slayer mark because he doesn't have sun breathing in this timeline. So he's strong, but not as broken as in the original story. Now we get to the part where Ubuyashiki sacrifices himself and Muzan shows up. Muzan kills him, the mansion explodes, and the Demon Slayer Corps attacks Muzan. Just like in the original timeline, everyone gets dragged into the Infinity Castle. Now let's go over the matchups. Tanjiro and Giyu versus Upper Moon 3, Akaza. Tanjiro is at a massive disadvantage without sun breathing, but he's still strong. The problem is, Akaza is way too fast and durable. Giyu would get pushed to near death, or honestly, he'd probably die in this timeline since he wouldn't unlock the Demon Slayer mark without Tanjiro triggering it first. But Tanjiro would still remember the selfless state from his dad, so he uses it and kills Akaza when Giyu is on the brink of death. So Giyu survives, but is in terrible condition afterward. Tanjiro gets the selfless state in this fight, making him stronger, but still not on the same level as in the original timeline. Upper Moon 2, Doma. That still plays out mostly the same. Shinobu still dies because she needs to sacrifice herself to poison Doma. Then Kanao and Inosuke finish the job thanks to the poison. Upper Moon 1, Kokushibo. Same as the original timeline. Muichiro and Genya still die, and Sanemi and Gyome finish Kokushibo off. Kaigaku versus Zenitsu. Same as the original timeline. Zenitsu wins with his 7th form. Yushiro, Mitsuri, and Obanai versus Nakime, Biwa woman. Also the same. They beat her when Yushiro hacks her blood demon art and takes over the Infinity Castle. Now we get to Muzan. When Tanjiro and Giyu show up to face him, Muzan kills Nakime after realizing she's being controlled by Yoshiro. Then all the demons and demon slayers are thrown outside for the Sunrise Countdown arc. Now with Muzan being weakened by the poison, and Tanjiro not knowing sun breathing in this timeline, and none of the Hashira having their demon slayer marks, this is going to be a really hard fight. The only reason Tanjiro was even able to fight Muzan in the original timeline was because he had the flashbacks from Yorichi showing him Muzan's weak points. But I'm still pretty sure they would pull it off, because all the Hashira plus Tanjiro and the rest of the Demon Slayer Corps should be able to hold Muzan off until sunrise. Tanjiro still becomes Demon King Tanjiro for a little bit, but he gets injected with the human serum and comes back to normal. But this final battle is way harder, and in this version, almost everyone dies. Only Giyu and Sanemi survive, just like in the original timeline. But here's the thing, Sanemi and Giyu don't die at age 25 in this timeline because there are no Demon Slayer marks, so they don't have the curse. Tanjiro and Kanao go on to live a full happy life together, and Zenitsu and Nezuko get married and live happily too. So even though this was a darker version of Demon Slayer, it still has a pretty good ending. I hope you guys liked this timeline, and check out What If Tanjiro and Nezuko Became Upper Moon Demons. Click this video right here.